The DA's Cape Town caucus plans to debate embattled Mayor Patricia de Lille's future later today. The party's federal executive gave the caucus the go-ahead to invoke its recall clause. It will meet at 5 o'clock this afternoon to decide de Lille's fate. eNCA's Leigh-Anne Jansen joins me live now from Cape Town. She's standing outside the chambers, the municipal chambers, the council chambers in Cape Town. Leigh-Anne, about 30 minutes to go before the caucus of the DA meets to discuss this, and they'll be using this clause that was adopted at the DA Congress about 2 or 3 weeks ago that has never been used before, has it?
Yes, this is the first time the recall clause, or it's also known as the de Lille clause, will be used since it was signed into the DA's constitution at the elective conference on the 8th of April. So the council meeting that's happening behind me is scheduled to end at about 5 o'clock, where after the DA caucus will then go into a separate meeting to debate and vote on whether or not to keep Patricia de Lille in as mayor or to let her go. So the recall clause, the DA said earlier in April, will not be applied retrospectively, and it's not targeted at any individual. Let's listen to what Musi Maimane, the DA leader, had to say about this clause.
Because it's in our constitution, it's applicable immediately. But it's not retrospective. I was going to sit back and say, well, the sin's here. We start now and we say for a public rep in a particular area, if we discover and we exercise that, and the clause also strengthened the power of caucuses. To say if a caucus has lost confidence in a particular individual, then it is the party that can in fact request that the person resign within 48 hours.
So Leigh-Anne, if, according to Musi Maimane, the clause does not apply retrospectively, what then has happened since the last time the DA tried to move a motion of no confidence against Patricia de Lille that didn't succeed? What has happened that now precipitates that they should move yet another one and use this clause?
Well, Tulos, that is the question. Nothing has happened since this clause was adopted into the constitution of the Democratic Alliance, other than Patricia de Lille appearing at Winnie Madikizela Mandela's memorial service in Brunford, which the party said it would have liked her to have alerted them to the fact that she was going to attend and speak. So the question is it now being applied retrospectively? Because the caucus had already indicated that it had lost confidence in Mayor Patricia de Lille. So the vote of no confidence it brought earlier this year had failed. So is the party now using its internal structures, because it knows that another vote of no confidence in chambers would fail again if the ANC votes for Patricia de Lille to stay? So there are many questions around how this clause is being used today and exactly on which grounds the clause is being used today.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, a few days ago, Bonkos Madikizela, the DA leader in that province, was talking about how, in his words, Patricia de Lille is now behaving like someone who's no longer a member of the DA. But talk to me about the state of play inside that caucus. The last time this motion of no confidence was moved, it was in a full council meeting with the participation of the other parties. But some DA caucus members did vote in favor of retaining de Lille, didn't they? How does that come into play this afternoon?
Yes, they did. And if we look at the numbers last week when they voted for the recall clause to be used, 77 councillors voted for this recall clause to be used. The last time the DA called for a motion of no confidence, 84 councillors had called for it to oust Patricia de Lille. So it seems that there is a bit of a divide in caucus and that the divide is growing. But whether or not this divide has grown enough and whether Patricia de Lille has garnered enough support within caucus, it seems unlikely. It seems that the majority of caucus wants her out.
And just finally, what is the mayor herself saying, Patricia de Lille? She's been speaking a bit, talking about how she fears no one but God.
Yes, I've spoken with Mayor de Lille this week. She is still adamant that she wants to clear her name. You'd also know that this recall clause, in terms of this recall clause, if the caucus votes her out today, then that decision goes to the federal executive. The federal executive then needs to call de Lille in for her to explain why she shouldn't leave. And if the FedEx is not happy with her reasons, then it will give her 48 hours to resign as mayor. Now, de Lille has for long been saying that she will not resign until she is given her day in her disciplinary hearing, or her day to clear her name, and that hasn't happened yet. Her disciplinary proceedings have not kicked off yet. It was postponed indefinitely after one of the panelists had recused himself, so she has not had her day to clear her name, so it's unlikely that she'll resign as well. Then this process will just be prolonged even further, but it's a wait-and-see game for now. We'll have to see what happens in caucus later.
All right, Leigh-Anne, for now, let's let you go. It promises to be quite a fascinating evening there in that caucus in the city of Cape Town, the caucus of the Democratic Alliance.